Oh, that song is amazing. It's amazing. Namasim. I'll tell you, Namasim. Um, Loved it. Loved it to bits. Loved it like crazy. Shout out to Cabrera for the request. I think he's an artist. Yeah, but shout out to him. And we have the wonderful we have this amazing person that we said we're gonna talk to today. Gabi Motuba. Motuba. Hey. And she's joined us. We're gonna be talking to her regarding her music, and regarding her career so far also. And it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure from our side. It's a pleasure for me that for the first time today on Jazz Sunday Request, we have a guest. Yes, we have a guest that we've planned to have on, and Sis Gabi has accepted our invite, and she's here to talk with us. So before further ado, I'll give Unawanda, and she will welcome her, and yes, maybe give a small bio, and then we're gonna talk to her. Sis Nawanda, please unmute. The platform is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Voxman, for trying to play that song, the last bit of it. Thank you, Gabi Motuba, for joining us. Oh my God, it gives me such great pleasure to introduce this phenomenal, sensational human being. Gabi, her full name was Gabisile, but Gabi. She was born in Pretoria in 1992, and she studied at TUT. But I don't want to give any of the boring stuff that you could typically research. I'd love for her to be able to show us who she is throughout this interview process. But to Gabi, as I've come to know her, as an incredible arranger, she's a composer, she's a vocalist, she's a band leader, she's a teacher, um, she's a mother, she's a wife. She's really just an all-round fire human being. Someone who we are very blessed to have as our inaugural guest. I hope her energy sets the tone for these conversations that we wish to have. And so, without further ado, hey Gabi, how you doing?
Hello, Nakwanda. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. The line is not the clearest, but we can definitely hear you. Are you connected on your phone?
Yes, I'm using my headphones. Should I take them out?
Yeah,
Let me
maybe
see.
try it
Maybe.
without the headphones, and then let's give it a quick sound check.
What about now?
Magic, magic. Sounds crystal clear. Yes. Hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, can you just maybe give us a little bit of insight? I mean, I know you were nominated for Summer Once Upon a Time for Goddess or Tefiti, Goddess of Creation.
Yeah.
And More Africa was in here earlier. I don't know where she went off to, but the spaces are recorded, so hopefully she'll be able to hear the interview. What did you think when I asked you to join the space?
I mean, I was looking forward to it. I haven't done an interview in a while because, of course, I haven't had a project since the Tafiti, which was like 2018. So, yeah, I'm grateful and humbled. That people still want to talk about the process. I mean, I've been doing a lot of other things outside of like stage performance things. So I've been doing a lot of teaching, a lot of research work. So yeah, it's always nice when people ask you, what you're doing, what you're up to.
Yes, I can't wait to tap a little bit more into that. Your research and your teaching, and yeah, Jay, I'm just excited. I'm stoked. I will always want to speak to you. You must know as soon as I get production money, honey, you are a musical director waiting. You
I
are scoring
accept.
my compositions.
I accept. I
The money's
receive.
on routes, baby. Like I'm telling you now, for real, for real.
Thank
Um,
you, man.
but I know that you've done a lot of projects. You might not necessarily have recorded a lot of albums because you have two albums. There's Sanctum Sanctorium,
Yeah.
and then there's Tefiti, Goddess of Creation.
Yes.
So before we get into the bulk of the interview, I just want to find out if Voxman can play that first track that I'd asked him to play. But maybe before we even play it, do you have a favorite song on Sanctum Sanctorium?
I do. I think it's I can't remember it. But it's where Malcolm Bruff has the piano intro. That's my favorite
You
one.
said like nothing yazing in Togo. No, I couldn't. So you don't even remember the number. Because I had asked him to play the arrival, obviously apt for you arriving.
Yes. I think it's The Arrival, actually. I think
Is
that's the one.
it?
Yeah. I think that's the one.
Oh my god! You know how the
Oh
synergy is.
my gosh! We on the same wavelength.
We're on the same wavelength. So Voxman, can you jazz it away just so our energies can settle, and so we can actually conduct this interview?
I love this. I love this on how it's actually begun, and it's lovely. It's lovely to see. Siyabonga kakhulu, Sis Gabisile.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for allowing us to dwell into your career and into your life. Thanks for coming through to Jazz Sunday Request. But before I actually play the song too, or what normally I do on the spaces that we normally have, is to ask people type of different questions, right? So I'll ask you perhaps before I play the song, Oguti, if if for instance if jazz was a fruit to you, what fruit would it be, please?
If jazz was a fruit, um, it would probably be. Is a tomato a fruit, or are we still? Is it a vegetable?
No, it's a fruit, babe.
It's a fruit, babe. Okay, a tomato.
Yeah, no, the
and, and
conversation
and
will never end.
precisely because of like its ambiguity, right? So we don't know whether it's a fruit or a vegetable. Like jazz is like ambiguous. We don't know what genre is influencing what, where, when. That's why, yeah.
And so that's your reasoning behind actually what jazz means to you, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I think the tomato embodies the principle of jazz for sure.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. And further on, I mean, further on your side and your career, this has spanned for quite a while, and being also so young, um, has jazz also made your life perhaps better? And when I say better, I mean music itself is quite vast in so many levels and does so many things to us. It heals, it makes one feel better, it
Mm.
changes the mood, literally. So, what are the important aspects of jazz that have made your life what it is today?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for noting that I'm very young. Yes, I am. I pride myself through my youth. Um, yeah, and being young, and being in this space of jazz, like I think jazz has gifted me so many incredible experiences, so many incredible people, who've walked this path with me like since I was like, yeah, in my teens. So that's been a real privilege. And I think that's the greatest honor in that, I've been able to kind of rub shoulders with the most, I think, incredible musicians and, those who've been like daring to be different. And that's helped me, it's helped shape me as a person, yeah. It's given me a lot of courage in a lot of ways.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that. And I guess, Job, I'm gonna say you are so young because you are like under 30.
Yes,
And yeah,
30, 30 this year.
and imagine that such a young, amazing artist who's already who's already made waves in the industry, in the jazz community, and we look forward to more successes. I guess more successes to your career, and more successes to your music.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Mina ngithanda kabi, yazi, when we have more females in the space that I can share my thoughts with, because I can't be the only man here just talking.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. That would be terrible. So I want to play the song, and Arrival. It also features Utumi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So Sanctum Sanctorium with the project is co-composed by Tumi and I. So it's basically a duo album. We were on a residency together in Switzerland, I think in about 2013, and we had the opportunity to produce a body of work, and by the grace of God, like Malcolm Braff was around at the time, and he was really open to collaborating with us on the project. So we got to make magic, during that 1 month of our residency. Yeah, and it was a special moment. So I'm so glad like this album came into fruition because yeah, it was it was like an afterthought. It was like, yeah, we're here, let's just do this, and yeah, and it happened. So we're very grateful for that.
Thanks for the intro into the song. I was actually just looking forward to that before I play it. So sibongile kakhulu Gabisile. So I'm gonna play the song. I'm gonna play the song. Just wanna let everyone know in the space too that you are more than welcome to be a part of this conversation that we are having with Osis Gabi. So you're welcome to grab the mic and come up and also just maybe ask some questions regarding her music, regarding her life around jazz. This is a very, very safe space. I always say that. So before further ado, the arrival by our guest this morning, this Sunday on Jazz Sunday Request. We already started playing the song, but it's not playing. Okay. Okay, it's me.
No,
Probably.
we can hear it. You hadn't unmuted the other device.
Oh, that's a wonderful song, wonderful song indeed. I think yes, it wasn't sounding so good. Because I couldn't find your music. I couldn't find the song on Spotify, so I'm actually playing it through YouTube. And YouTube is isikhathi yamosha nje yabona sisikhathi. So ngixolise ngequality kancane. It's actually not on Spotify. So, do you know why perhaps the song is not on Spotify? Could you share with us? Okay, well, sis Gabi, you're probably just enjoying the song as much as everyone else.
No, Voxman, I think your Western Cape signal is holding you back. The album is on Spotify.
I couldn't
Perhaps if
find
you
it though.
search you have to search for the album Sanctum Sanctorium. Yeah, you won't necessarily just find it using her name. But that's a story for another day. Gabi, I'm
Yeah.
quite curious. Can you hear me again?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm very curious. I love how you mentioned that this was a dual project that you did with Tumi Mogorosi. And those of us who know you know that he's your husband.
Yeah.
Why is that something that you tend to? Your personal life is very personal, and I mean I love that about you. But why have you made that decision?
I don't think I made it like consciously. Dumi had a very, I think, present career even before we met. Even starting from the days Sako Pitori, so he was already like, Tumi Mogorosi. And, after, of course, we got together, I also was introduced kind of to the industry via him in a lot of ways. We kind of started collaborating with the same people, and of course we moved around because we were both musicians. But the reason why I think you kind of have noticed the differences is really because we have a different aesthetic when it comes to sound. Like we have different tastes. So he really likes that hard jazz and that free jazz, and I'm really into like the strings and a more mellow kind of approach to my music. So it's not to say that I don't tell people that we're together, but it just never comes up because we of course we in the music industry together, but we occupy different spaces as well. So I've never had to say like, oh, like he's my husband.
I love how humble
you
are. Like, oh my God, though your humbleness is just out of this world. And you're so right. You do have different tastes in music, and I am going to get to the element of how most of your projects revolve around strings. Because I'm not even going to touch base. I know that the album launch, Maloba, was probably amazing at Untitled Basement.
Yes.
So congrats to the family on that. I love the fact that you still retained your identity in terms of you still calling yourself Gabi Motuba, so big ups to you on that. Can I ask you for a favor when we play the next song, or whenever, just while we're still in the space together, please can you take a picture of the album cover of Sanctum Sanctorium and tweet it? Because a lot of people who are in the space don't know that cover was actually done by Malcolm Jiyane.
Yeah.
He's actually the artist who drew that out, and using a very interesting medium, where technology is intersecting, with the art. Why did you guys specifically choose album art from Malcolm Jiyane, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, Jay is a good friend of ours, and I think at the time we were really close. We were just coming off of the Project Elo, projects. So, we've been touring, and, Malcolm had been sharing a lot of his artworks. And I think at that time he was also really growing in an immense way after Project Elo. Like, he was exploring the piano because he's known as a trombone artist. So at that time, he was experimenting with piano and, obviously his art and digital art. He's doing like a lot of fine art, like installations and things of that nature. So, it was like it's a community, we just like, yo, Malcolm, we got this album coming out. He's like, yo, man, let me do something, let me contribute in some way. I want to be a part of this, so it's friends, yeah, and that's how it came about.
Amazing. Please, please, please share that album art, because a lot of people don't know it. And it's very deep. And people, like you're saying, people mainly know Malcolm as a trombonist. They don't know that he actually also plays the piano and that he's also an artist. So I'm going to use that to tie into my next question to you, which is, what instruments do you play?
I'm mainly on vocals, like I'm a singer. I use the piano to compose, but I'm not very strong in that. I usually just compose with the Sibelius. So I write down notation. I'm big on like music theory. That's how I compose my music most of the time.
Amazing, amazing. I know Umpumelelo might have a question for you around that. And I'm encouraging anyone who's listening to, this incredible interview. Please, if you are familiar with some of Gabi's music, if you have followed her journey, please, please, please grab the mic. I know Tatita Wudi is already waiting to have the conversation with you. And I love that you're saying that. So now I just want to follow up with a question that I was asked early on in the space, and that is quite important, is that mainly we hear women in jazz, particularly through voice, even if they do play other instruments, like you're mentioning, you do know the piano, you just don't play the piano, you're a vocalist.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's contributed to the erasure of women in jazz, that we mainly focus on voice, and that a lot of festivals are interested in the instrumentalist? What's your take on that, on how women are currently being portrayed in jazz music?
Yeah. It's always been a struggle, and just outside of the jazz genre, I mean, like, I'm a Black female artist, right? So, and then Kizwa Mamelodi, the way in which I was introduced into music is like through, the talent show, Libody Idol, through TV, those kind of mediums. So also the way in which, like, where I am in the world, how I appear in the world as a young Black woman who's not so privileged, who's not so much from a Wallo family. That's the main introduction into music, right? You can sing, you know what I mean? So it's like this over insistence of, no, your talent as a singer, that's where, those are your options, right? Very seldom do you get exposed to a young female instrumentalist, who's playing the double bass, playing the saxophone. This is not the culture of of where we are as Black people right now. So yes, you can say that promoters are biased in that sense, that males are more featured, but at the same time you have to understand that we don't become music on stage. We don't become musicians on stage. You are groomed into being a musician. How you interacted with music as you were growing, determines what kind of musician you will be at the end of the day. So that was for me, I think, also like one of the major struggles that I had, because I was like, man, I don't want to just live on stage. I want to be the singer and like do the spotlight thing, and then do this like this super. I don't know, this Beyonce kind of thing. No shade to any of my what is the beehive people? I'm a beehive. I'm just making, this is just an example. Okay. But yeah, man, it's liberating now for me to think of myself as a composer more than a singer, because it gives me more freedom to say that no, you're not like bound um to this thing of this aesthetic of singing, this, this model of singing, of also, because when you're a singer, it also comes with your body, right? You don't just sing. You have a whole look. It's a whole thing. It's a whole package. And being the person that I am, I'm super, super shy. I mean, I'm not shy, but I'm like introverted. So this has never been comfortable. The stage has never been comfortable for me. So I've had to find ways to find comfort, but also still being a singer, still being, the person that can can express themselves through sound, through voice, but not be too preoccupied with, oh, how do I look, how do my dress look, how do I. So yeah, I hope I answered your question. I kind of do.
Spot on, spot on. Everything that you add onto it is necessary. And now I love how you spoke about how you don't just become a musician on stage. That journey begins way, way before you even get to the stage. And a lot of people don't actually know Hore Mami Lodi means mother of melody.
Yes.
And I also love how you mentioned some other things that will allow me to have this conversation without dipping into our own personal experience. So, do you see yourself solely using jazz? Because I know, in our younger years, there are other genres that you still wanted to experiment in and with. And so I'm curious if that's still part of your vision. And whether it is or it isn't, why is jazz still something that you use and hold on to as a refuge? Because I also do have this understanding of the sound based music. And everyone who's familiar with your music will know that you use very little lyrics, very, very little lyrics. Even when you do use them, they repeat, they come back. So why are you holding on to jazz? If you are still holding on to jazz, do you see yourself exploring other genres later on in your career?
I mean, let me move away a little bit. There's a bit of a,
Guitar, oh.
yeah. Yeah,
Ntate
I think.
Tabudi also has a tari in his life, so he'll tell us about that. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I'm in a better spot now. With regards to jazz, I feel, what, I really do feel like jazz is uh the most progressive genre, right? Because it kind of, even though the traditional idea of what jazz is like, drums, double bass, like a rhythm section and like horns. There is so much room for interpretation. And this is what the principle of the genre actually teaches us. You even learn this at school, right? That it's not really about what you play, but how you play. It's not about the note, it's where you place the note. So these philosophical like understandings and principles that a musician maybe who's not really interested in like one specific genre, like this is home for us. Even experimental artists, they find their place in jazz. This is like the closest, I think the closest place to I think some kind of like a stable home. Even if you're roving, you can find some kind of stability within jazz. So that's why I gravitated towards this genre. Um, of course, I do other kinds of music. I really enjoy like scoring, film scoring. But this is not like a music genre. This is like a function. So my music, even if it is within jazz, it can be interpreted in these different functions, like the function of the stage, the function of film, the function of TV, you know what I mean? So that's how I think about my art. Um, I don't necessarily, yeah, it's not, I'm not like, I'm not too concerned, of course, also with labels, but I see that interpretation like, okay, it can, my music can live here, okay, it can live here, so on and so forth.
Love it. I could talk to you forever, and you know this, so I'm not gonna do that. uh, before I hand the mic over to Ntate Tawudi, I do want to ask you, what is your favorite song on Tefiti, Goddess of Creation, so that can be the song that we play after Ntate asks you his question.
It's definitely the rapture. Yeah, I feel like this 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 song, man, this song is like so big, and this was just like the early ideas of this, of this idea. I feel like the rapture is like it just opened up another kind of dimension into what it is that I'm trying to do. Even though it was like in its inception, it was like those early days, but this recent project was really, I think, birthed through that. I've developed so much of the sound based on the principles of this composition of the rapture. So yeah, I will choose that one.
Love it. That's also my
I
favorite
know. I know.
song. Okay, but I have one more question, and I love that your answer right now allows me to tie it in. But I only want to ask that question after we've played the Rapture. And Tate Tawudi, I see you have the microphone. Is there anything that you'd love to say to Os Gabisile Motuba?
Ah, you exhausted all my questions. You are so effective in asking questions that now I'm left as a spectator. But I think I need to ask two questions. Welcome first, young lady. Um,
Thank you so much for having me, sir.
yeah. Growing up in Mamelodi, which artists were you listening to and who influenced you? I was losing signal at the beginning, so if you ask these questions, just bear with me.
Okay. Can
Mm.
I ask? Can I answer, or must I wait for the question number two?
Yeah, please answer that.
Okay.
I don't want us to be all over the place.
Okay. Okay. No,
Yeah.
no
Mm,
problem.
mm,
Um, my dad played a lot of jazz records. So in Goba Melody, there's a lot of jazz societies.
true.
And some of our fathers, had found themselves like, bumping into these spaces. So they'd always bring records home. And for the longest time, I never knew the names of the people on those records because, he knew I was interested in music, but I'm still very young. So I was like into pop culture. I was listening to a lot of Rihanna, a lot of Mariah Carey. Like I was doing the whole MTV rotation like anyone else. But on Sundays, he always used to play these records. And coming to fast forward years later, there are so many jazz records that I know that people like, I like, like, oh my goodness, how do you know this? I never, it was never so like like a conscious thing that my dad was like, okay, this is Miles Davis, or, this is like, Louis Armstrong, this is who that. But I think I just developed I acquired the sound, the taste for jazz through those moments, not knowing that it was jazz. I just knew that, okay, this is the kind of music my dad liked to play. So through that, it influenced even the kind of music I make today, the kind of notes I choose, the kind of combinations. So yeah, that was that moment. I think I can say that it happened. I think it happened like that.
Okay. Thanks. With me, with my daughter, I used to sexually. She started knowing the music I was playing. I think from around 3 4 years. She used to describe the albums by by the cover. She was saying, "Baby araba paleng ntweng kusku ana la fish ka montle or kusku na
That's nice.
ana ana le go sisi." And then by the time she became 6 or 7 or 8, she was actually, when we had to take trips, she was picking the music that you were gonna play, and we should be sitting on the passenger seat, and then she would be pumping them, changing them the way she likes. So
That's so
unfortunately,
nice. Yeah.
unfortunately, she's no more, and I miss
Sorry
my
to hear that, sir.
Nah, it's fine. This space helped me a lot in recovering. So we used to play a lot of music, and there are lots and lots of youngers. I'm sure that if somebody were to pose the same question to her, she would be all over.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, those recounting of those moments. And unfortunately, I wasn't that progressive.
Now,
I wouldn't have been able to say play this one, play this one.
no,
Yeah.
no, she was, and I
That's
actually thought she was
amazing.
gonna study music, but the mother's side, they influenced her to go into commerce, and that's what she studied.
Uh,
But she was deep into music. Anyway, Lel, my second question is, I want to know why there are so many, there are so few, and there are so few, there are so few uh, artists that sing in in the Sotho language, mainly the Spedi and Sotho languages. And I,
mhm.
I want to tell you why I'm asking that. It's because, you know, the Ngunis, especially Xhosas and Zulus, have done a great job of creating sub-genres that are with typical sound that became like, for instance, if you look at San El, uh, the people who came from San El were Azana, were Simians, and so like there is this special sound that they came up with, and then
Mhm.
you look at the closer side as well. So there's a distinct, for instance, there's a distinct jazz sound, yeah, that's played by Xhosas, and Zulus. They have Stratamia, for instance. So why couldn't we do the same thing?
Oh, yeah, that's that's quite a big question, but I think just from my perspective and coming also from Mamelodi, which is also known from like producing languages like, Spitori language, where you find all different um, words existing in one conversation, like in one language, where people can tap into the languages of the Nguni, the languages of Sesotho, languages of Venda, so on and so forth. So I think for me, those are one of the things that privileged me um, in my music, in that Mamelodi is quite a peculiar space because there's these like I don't know. There's this insistence of like, in order for one to survive in that space, you really have to acclimatize to your environment, right? To your neighbors that you don't necessarily know their language, you don't know their culture, you don't know, their belief system, but you also are trying to build a community because, I mean, we were all brought to this place. My grandfather was brought to this place. As well in Bob. So that in and of itself is like, it's a school whereby my dad even lost like his mother tongue, for the longest time. Like, we're from Swati. side, but finding himself in the culture of Mamelodi. The insistence of that tribal identity was no longer a priority for survival in that space, for communication, for maneuvering, for creating relationships. That's what that's what I see as terms of that connect me to survival. So the kind of music also that comes out of there is this incredible like repertoire of Bosbu doing like fusing his traditional heritage and being this incredible jazz guitarist who's like I can put him up there with like Bo Lionel Lueke, doing this West African influence. There's a lot of West African influence in Pretoria. So, I mean, in terms of the language, this is why I'm thinking like it's not prioritized in the sense that we have this fundamental priority to survive, whereby all these identity politics really become even though they are there, they really are not put in the forefront for us as musicians coming from Pretoria. So it's unfortunate that like when we go out of our community, go out of Pretoria, out of Mamelodi, out of Soshanguve, and we come to places such as Johannesburg, where now it's like the economy of music. So now what we produce goes into albums, gets played on radio, and they're just like, but these are people from Pitori, why are they not singing? You know what I mean? This is like, and this is what I was saying to Nokwanda. We become musicians way before we you see us on stage. These like insistence on languages and language politics, identity, we've already dealt with them in our communities where we are from, with our mothers, with our neighbors, how we interact with each other. So the reason why we don't prioritize things such as language is because these really things like they are not survival tools for us. Like I come here and the other day I was doing a gig. I was singing in not my mother tongue. I was singing in another language, and I enjoy that because this I understand as, okay, I'm in this context. I'm trying to serve this music, and in order for me to really be in service of this thing, I want to bring about this element, and maybe this element is this particular language. But it's not to say that I am somehow tied to this language. It's just I'm serving the process. I'm contributing to this moment in this, of course, linguistic way, but it's not about the language. It's about what it is that we are all prioritizing in that moment. So, I hope I could break it down efficiently, but I really do believe like, these ideas such as language, they really happen prior to someone being a musician on stage, producing the record. These conversations have already been not attended to, but they've already been interrogated with oneself way before even you think about being a musician, you think about being, yeah.
I think you may have misconstrued it a little bit. It's not pushing at a tribal line. What I'm asking, I was just saying these things. It's part of promoting one's culture or cultural identity.
No, of course. No, I completely, and this is what I'm saying. Like, I have nothing to promote at the end of the day.
And
I am from this space, which does not. I do not inherit this thing of language and what it comes with, because it's not a survival tool for me, and I think a lot of people
Okay.
coming from, yes, this is, yeah.
Okay. Let me just add on. You see, as a person from Mamelodi, and nna ke Mopedi, I come from the Witbank. I was born and bred in Witbank, but my roots are in Limpopo, and in most cases, when you ask me or where do I come from, I'm most likely to say I come from Limpopo. So ke bolela Sepedi twi sa maponta makgodi a kgokgo. And so I take pride in my language without being tribalistic, without trying to denigrate other languages. So having had grown up listening to and watching people bina dinaka, there's nothing that brings me pride and joy than listening to music while so I was just saying that if the others could naturally produce music that resonates with who they are ethnically, I thought it would be just especially